السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. As I said before, now it's a requirement that if anyone becomes a Muslim to marry, he has to take a short marriage course, only 1 hour. So some people who had embraced Islam for the purpose of marriage only, after taking the course, they liked it, they learned a lot, and they suggested we offer an extensive course on marriage. So we have information that can last 6 months, but we want to give it a try. It will last only 3 months, and if we see people are still interested, we can extend it. So today is the 5th session. We have about 12 sessions to go, maybe 8 more sessions to go. And inshallah, we hope you'll be able to benefit. And due to the fact that we do have children, we won't go into details in some aspects of it. But inshallah, if anyone is interested, you can always call us, you can always inquire. So I will begin with this quote here, which reads, "It is important that a man chooses a pious woman so she can assist him in his religion and his worldly affairs." And the opposite is correct. If you are a woman, you choose a pious man so that he can assist you in your religion and he can assist you in your mundane affairs. And if people understand the issue of marriage very well, everything that you do for your spouse, if you are a husband, whatever you do for the wife, Allah rewards you. Whatever the wife does for her husband, Allah rewards her. There are some things which a woman is not supposed to do for her husband, like cooking, cleaning, but if she does it wholeheartedly, expecting rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she is worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why we say the institution of marriage is the best institution in Islam, because everything that you do, even when you enjoy, if your main aim is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are rewarded for that. And this is why we always say that even when you rear your children, you bring up your children, intend you are doing so for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you expect that they will reciprocate or they will help you, if they don't help you in the future, you will be the loser. But if you intend doing so for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if the children don't help you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will assist you in different ways. As we usually say, we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 3 major reasons. We call them the pillars of worship. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we love Him. We worship Him because we are afraid of Him. And we worship Him because we expect rewards from Him. So if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, intend, I will love my wife because of Allah. I will love my husband because of Allah. And if love is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it never dies. And as I usually say from experience, the person that you love the most is not the one that loves you the most. The person that you help the most, when you are in need, he is not the one that will help you the most. And the person, if you come from a polygynous marriage, whereby a man has more than one wife, the person who is more beloved to the father, or let me say, a child who is not liked by the father or by the mother, is the one who becomes more successful in life. Because yes, human beings may excommunicate you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do that. So I have another quote: "Never compare your wife to another woman. If the other woman was good for you, Allah would have given her to you." So be happy with your choice. Be happy with your wife. Be happy with your husband, and learn how to improve your relationship with that person. Don't admire others. There is no marriage which is perfect. So you may admire other people's relationship, but you don't know what's going on. For example, I know a couple, husband and wife, every time, honey, 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 they give the impression that they love each other, but they're suffering from problems more than many people. And actually they reach the point whereby they have to divorce. But in public, they show you another picture. In private, there is another picture. So don't be deceived by what people portray in public. So work on yourself, work on your relationship, seek blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, learn how to improve your relationship with your spouse, and if you do so, as we said, with the intent of seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. I know of a case, for example, I have many examples. I know of a case because we are always engaging in marriage counseling. When people have problems, husband and wife, we always go there to help. So I have a situation whereby a woman divorced her husband she sought khulu, whereby she will return her dowry to him and he will be forced to divorce her. The man didn't do anything wrong. The only problem was that the man was poor. So the woman got a rich man who was deceiving her, who was encouraging her to divorce her husband, and he promised he will give her everything that she needed. So the poor lady divorced her husband. She accused him falsely of things that he was not doing. Eventually, she married the rich man. After a few months, the rich man died, and the family of that rich man was against her, and now the poor man whom she divorced became rich. So she was admiring him again when it was too late. So never compare your wife to another woman. If the other woman is good for you, Allah would have given her to you. The same applies to your husband. Never compare your husband to another man. Everyone has his own destiny. And according to many scholars, if we tally all the blessings that we have, rich and poor, you may find that you have more blessings than a rich man, but you don't know. So be happy with who you are, be happy with what you have, with whom you have, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you always. So we are still talking about criteria for choosing a spouse. We first talked about religion. So the husband or wife has to be religious. And number two, we talked about virginity, which is not a requirement, but it's recommended. Then fertility, a woman who can bear children. Then closeness in culture and age. So if, for example, you are not exposed to different cultures, it is better you marry from your own culture. However, there is a danger. There is a danger that when you get exposed to other cultures, you go to cities and suburbs, you may discover that what you have isn't enough. So you have to be careful in your choice. Not necessarily that if you marry from your own culture, you will be happy, and not necessarily that if you marry from another culture, you will be happy. There is a lot that you have to do, as we discussed last time. And then physical and mental health. This is what we'll be talking about, physical and mental health, then knowledge and education, and more. So today, we are talking about physical and mental health. Physical, mental, and spiritual health has an important role in the success and prosperity of the joint life of a couple. Some of the ailments are not serious and do not pose any hurdles or hindrances in performing matrimonial duties and responsibilities. They do not give any shock or blow to life, and one can bear them or they can be treated. So if you are courting someone, if someone approaches a woman, he wants to marry her, if she has some chronic diseases, she has to tell him. If the man has chronic diseases, tell her. So don't hide something that when he discovers, it will be a blow. And we will see why we shouldn't hide any chronic disease. Our discussion does not pertain to such diseases which can be treated. Instead, those which must be taken into consideration while selecting a spouse are the chronic ailments and deformities or disabilities that are of a physical and spiritual nature, which are incurable and accompany a man or a woman for his or her entire life. Such ailments or disabilities may be difficult to endure. A spouse must love his or her mate to have a good life, and some defects and deformities may hinder him or her to enjoy love. Therefore, marrying someone suffering from diseases like leprosy, madness, epilepsy, or other chronic diseases may bring misery to one's life. So when you marry, you want to be happy. You want to enjoy. You don't want to suffer. So if you as a husband or as a fiancé, if you're suffering from any chronic disease, tell your fiancé that, I'm proposing to marry you, but the problem is I'm suffering from such and such a disease. The same applies to the woman. So when you hide a disease and then your spouse discovers it later, either he will divorce or he will marry another one, or the love will go down. So all of us, you have to put yourself in another person's shoes. One of the reasons for someone to marry is to be happy, to enjoy. So not to be going to hospitals every day. Anyway, disease comes from Allah. So if you contracted the disease after marrying the person, it's understandable, but before marrying the person, be clear that I'm suffering from this and that disease. So he may opt to treat you before marrying you, and he may opt to quit the marriage. So you have to be open. Don't cheat, don't lie to anyone, something that will bring misery to your married life. عن عبد الله بن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا ضرر ولا ضرار. So Abdullah bin Abbas narrated that Allah's Messenger said, avoid harming anyone unintentionally or intentionally. So the Prophet ﷺ is warning us, don't harm anyone unintentionally or intentionally. So which means when you are dealing with people, make sure you do a research. Make sure you learn how to deal with them effectively. You may harm someone without knowing, and especially if you're dealing with a different culture. This is why knowledge is very important. The Quran is the only divine book that began with the word Iqra, read. So what should we read? First, we read about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We read about the mineral resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. And we read about one another. We learn how to improve our relationships with one another. So it's very important to learn about each other in order to make love grow. Because maybe something is acceptable in your culture, it isn't acceptable in your husband's culture. So there will be a clash always. So learning is very important. So the Prophet ﷺ says, don't harm anyone unintentionally or intentionally. So which means when you are dealing with a person, before saying anything, ask yourself, will he accept it? Will what I say make him happy or angry? Will what I do annoy him or harm him? And according to some other interpretations, the Prophet says, don't harm yourself and don't harm others. So sometimes we harm ourselves unintentionally and without knowing. So you do something, you don't think about the repercussions of it. So you say something, and whatever you said lands you into problems. So don't harm yourself. As we always say, our bodies belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't belong to us. So everything that you do to improve your health and wellness, you are actually worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another interpretation is neither harm others nor reciprocate harm. If anyone harms you, maybe it was unintentional, so don't harm them. If someone does you harm, forgive them if possible and do good to them. Unless this person continuously harms people intentionally, thinking he is powerful, he is connected, then this person has to be stopped. Because if he harms you, he will harm another and it will go viral. So we have to stop him or her. So the point is, if someone is courting you, someone approaches you, he wants to marry you, or you want to marry a lady, so tell them frankly of the disease you are suffering from. Even if it is a minor disease like sinuses, tell them. So they may be okay with it, they may not be okay with it. Tell them. And actually in many countries, many communities, before you marry, it's compulsory that you go for a full medical checkup, man and woman, so that you know you marry each other when you are safe, because some diseases may affect your children. You don't want to have children with deformities. Of course, everything comes from Allah, but there are some other things in which you play a role. So we have to be careful. Then, knowledge and education. Knowledge and education have a great effect on the prosperity and felicity of a married couple. Being educated and gaining knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim man and woman. This specification is among the focus of attention in spouse selection, and it is a distinction for a decent and suitable spouse. It also has a deep effect on striving to attain perfection. Of course, no one we strive to attain perfection, but we can't reach there, but we always try. And the progress of life in terms of performing marital duties and the upbringing and training of children, among others. So knowledge is very important. For example, if you have a degree, marry someone who has a degree, or at least a high school certificate. Now, knowledge alone is not enough. Some people have knowledge, but it does not have an effect on them. It does not impact their behavior. So we have knowledge and wisdom. Can anyone explain to us what wisdom means? Can anyone give us any definition of wisdom? So someone may be knowledgeable but not wise. Someone may be wise but not knowledgeable. So you may find someone who doesn't have even a high school certificate, but this person is wise. And actually, if you do a research, the richest people in the world, they don't have even a degree. The most successful people in the world, they don't have a degree. What they have is wisdom. So what is wisdom? Can anyone tell us what wisdom is? Can anyone give us a definition of wisdom? Experience of life. So you learn lessons the hard way. So these lessons give you great experience, make you wise. The lessons you learn the hard way, they make you wise. So wisdom is to learn lessons the hard way, ponder over the lessons, and promise that you will not repeat the mistakes you did in the past. What else? Definition of wisdom. Wisdom has a lot of definitions. One of them, to practice the knowledge you have on yourself. So you have some knowledge. Don't just give a lip service knowledge to others. Implement it on yourself. For example, you're teaching people how to take care of their children. So be a role model. So wisdom is to implement the knowledge that you have on yourself. Knowledge alone without implementing doesn't have any effect. Another interpretation of wisdom is to know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. For example, your business partner tells you that his mother died and he wants to travel to go to attend the burial of his mother. So your business partner is now very sad. And right now, after he tells you that his mother died, you're telling him there is a business deal. Will he listen to you? Someone who is lamenting the death of his mother, now you're telling him about business, about a deal, about connections. He won't listen to you because he's sad. So you have to know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. How to say it is very important. You may be right, what you want to say is right, but the way you say it is wrong. It may make people irritated. This is why we always tell people to learn what they call effective communication. Effective communication. Because effective communication teaches you how to communicate with people effectively without irritating them. You may say something which is right, but you say it in a negative way, people will be angry. But the same statement, you say it in a right way, people will be happy. So that is wisdom. So knowledge alone is not enough. For example, if you are a wife with a degree, don't marry a man who does not have even a high school certificate. There will be a problem. Because the problem is, if you are more educated than your spouse, he will have what we call inferiority complex. He will always feel inferior to you. So he does something wrong, you correct him with good intentions. He will say, because you have a degree, because I don't have a high school certificate, you look down upon me, and inferiority complex is not good in marriage. So if you are a wife, if you are a husband, don't give an implication to your husband or to your wife that you are suffering from inferiority complex, that you are inferior to him. Don't do that, because when you show inferiority complex, the person will be irritated. No one wants to be with a person who feels inferior. You have to be confident. Even when you talk to the most powerful people, you have to be confident of yourself. People will respect you when you feel confident. But when you are inferior, you don't have confidence at all, no one will listen to you. No one will respect you. So you have to respect yourself before others respect you. So you have to be careful. But again, it's not a major requirement. But again, at least someone should be willing to learn. And when we talk about education, it's not only having a degree, having a PhD, it's also to learn about the culture of your husband, the culture of your wife. It's also to learn how to improve your relationship with your spouse. So don't say, okay, I have him, I have her, and just sit. So learn. Explore the best ways of making this person happy. Learn him very well. Learn her very well. Know what she wants. Know what he wants. And make sure you provide what they want. Make sure you treat them the way they want. They always say, treat people the way you would like to be treated. They always say, treat people the way you would like to be treated. But I differ with this. I say, treat people the way they would like to be treated. I will give you an example. In my own culture, if you find a woman who is at the age of your mother, you call her mother. Although in Islam, your mother is only one. But in some cultures, Someone who is at the age of your mother, call him mom, dad. In Islam, your father is one. Your mother is one. So if someone is a brother to your father, you say uncle. You don't say father, but in some cultures they say father. So the point is, even in those cultures where you call someone who is at the age of your father, where you call him father, in some other cultures, if you call someone a mother, she will be angry. I know of someone, for example, he traveled to a country and he wanted to do the same what he does in his own culture, calling all the women mother. He called a lady mother. She said, am I old enough to be your mother? She was angry. She was irritated. Now, in the Muslim world, for example, here in Kuwait, if you go anywhere, it's always women first. You go to an elevator, you see women, you let them go. So my friend went to Japan. He wanted to do the same. He saw women, he wanted to let them go first. As a sign of respect, Japanese women were angry. They were saying, in Japan, men and women are the same. We strive the same. So why do you let us go first? According to our culture, it is a sign of weakness. You are viewing us as weak creatures. So she was angry. So what I say, treat people the way they would like to be treated. For example, in some cultures, people don't like to be called by names, especially if they have children. For example, if my son is Ali, I would like to be called Abu Ali. So if you call me Abu Ali, I become happier. In some other cultures, people prefer to be called by their names. So instead of calling me Abu Ali, you call me Hassan, I'm happy. So you may come from a culture whereby you like people to call you by the names of your children, and then you want to implement this on my culture, for example, where I like people to call me by my name, I will be angry. So I say, treat people the way they would like to be treated. So long as this treatment is within the parameters of the teachings of Islam. If Islam agrees with that, go ahead. But you may treat them the way you like to be treated. They may not like it. So people are different. So this is knowledge as well. Learning how to treat people, learning what pleases people, what annoys people, avoiding, learning how to talk to people, learning how to talk to your husband. For example, a woman married someone. Actually, she didn't like him, but her family convinced her to marry the man. She was divorced. So every time this man annoyed her, she would say, I wish I stayed with my first husband. So the man got irritated because every time his wife reminds him of her first husband. And this is why in many cultures, many people don't like to marry divorcees. The reason is she will always compare between you and the first husband. So if your second husband commits mistakes, don't compare him. People are not the same. Maybe your first husband was committing mistakes which the second husband is not committing. No one is perfect. I know of a lady, for example, she was always complaining about her husband. He was trying hard. She divorced him. He didn't do anything wrong. She chose to divorce him. She has married now 10 times, and as we speak today, she doesn't have a husband. So she regrets why she divorced her first husband. It's too late. So knowledge is very important. And when I say knowledge, it's not only a degree, not a PhD, it's also to learn how to treat one another, to learn about the culture of each other. And if you're from different cultures, try to learn the language of your spouse. Because in many cultures, when someone marries, the family is happy that you have gotten a family member. For example, your mother-in-law, if she doesn't speak your language or you don't speak her language, it will be a problem. Sometimes mother-in-laws, they want to connect with their daughters-in-law. So you have to learn the basics of the language. At least you can connect with the mother-in-law and she will like you. So there's a lot that we can learn. And then, قال الإعلامي محمود السعد إذا علمت رجلا فإنك تعلم فردا وإذا علمت امرأة فإنك تعلم أمة. It corresponds with what Brigham Young said. You educate a man, you educate a man. You educate a woman, you educate a generation. What does it mean? So if you educate one man, it's just one man. But if you educate a woman, you are educating an entire generation. How is it that if you educate a woman, you are educating an entire generation? You know, most of the time, for example, you have children in KG, in kindergarten, in elementary. Who is always helping them with homework? It's the mother, not the father. The father is always busy. Who is always correcting the mistakes of the children? So women have to be knowledgeable, have to learn parenting because they are the ones always staying with the children, especially during the tender age. So education is very important to both men and women, and to women it's even more, especially learning how to take care of the husband, learning how to take care of the children. So an intelligent and wise woman must be placed beside a sage and a wise man. What does the word sage mean? It's an English word. Who is a sage? Does anyone know who a sage is? A sage is an extremely wise person, and especially an old man. So the man has gone through a lot of problems, a lot of challenges. He has learned the hard way. And this is why we always say, if you listen to old men, your life will be easy. But if you don't listen to them, you will learn the hard way. So if you listen to your father or your grandfather, he's giving you a shortcut of life. If you don't listen to them, then it will take you a long way to learn. Because what they tell you, they learned it from experience. In school, they teach you facts. They teach you, if you're, for example, in technology, about gadgets, but they don't teach you wisdom. You learn wisdom from old people. This is why I say the education system all over the world is failing us. There should be a subject on wisdom. Bring the elderly people. For example, if you are in medicine, bring an experienced doctor who has worked for a long time. Let him share with you experience, because what you learn in books is quite different from what you see on the ground. In the books, you learn something. On the ground, you find something else. So you need someone who has experience in order to corroborate what you learn in the books. And by so doing, you'll gain both knowledge and wisdom. But knowledge alone isn't enough. And this is why we say, imagine, just think about this. Someone has a PhD in business administration. PhD in business administration. He graduates and he works, he gets employed by someone who does not have a high school certificate. Imagine. So you have a PhD in business administration. You work for someone who does not have a high school certificate. So why doesn't the school or the university teach you how to make money? You know, we're being trained to be employees, not to be employers. I want to go to a university where they will teach me to be an employer. After I get my PhD, they connect me to companies or to financial institutions. I take a loan and I start my own business. So people who become successful, it's by wisdom, not only education. So they implement what they learn and they add on that experiences from people who have done whatever they want to do, then they gain a lot. So it's very important for the men and women to learn. Learn how to rear your children, learn how to take care of your husband, learn how to take care of your wife. You have to take a course on marriage. And if you do so with the intention of perpetuating your marriage for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards you. So here it says, to educate a woman is to educate an entire generation. Here, a good education can change anyone. A good education can change anyone. A good teacher can change everything. A good teacher can change everything. Can anyone tell us how? So a good education can change someone, just one person, two people, but a good teacher can change everything. Can anyone tell us how can a good teacher change everything? You know, there is a book entitled The Third Alternative. The author in that book says, in America, there was a teacher, there was a school where they used to teach special needs kids. So the kids who were having some problems with their mental ability, so there was a special school for them. So one kid was always sad, was always late in completing his work. So the teachers were angry. It's only one teacher who was spending quality time with this student, encouraging him in a good way that, never mind, you will make it. You will be a successful person. People look down upon you, but time will come when they will be working for you. So the teacher was motivating this young boy. And actually, through motivation, the young boy became successful. Imagine in some houses, your son commits a mistake, you call him kalb, himar. Is it allowed in Islam to call your child kalb, himar? Not allowed. Is it allowed in education to call someone stupid? Why don't you understand? You can't say that if you are a good teacher. There is a good way of motivating someone, even if he does not understand. If you read about scholars like Shafi'i, they said there were a lot of mas'ala. Islamic rulings, they took a long time to understand. So don't criticize someone. Why don't you understand? Every day I explain to you. A good teacher does not say that. A good teacher will find a way of explaining things. Like, for example, managers or CEO in successful companies, when you are late in doing your report or doing your work, they don't shout at you, why didn't you do it? The deadline was yesterday. But rather what they do is, how can we help you to achieve your goals? A good manager will say, how can I help you to achieve your goals? He will not yell at you. He will not judge you. He will not shout at you. So if you find a good teacher, the good teacher will change everything. So husbands have to be good teachers in the house. Wives have to be good teachers in the house. And that will not come easily. You have to work on it. You have to research a lot. You have to take a lot of courses on parenting. You have to take a lot of courses on being a good wife, on being a good husband. So I have this quote here: there is no greater pillar of stability than a strong, free, and educated woman. There is no greater pillar of stability than a strong, free, and educated woman. What do you think about this? Any comments about this? There is no greater pillar of stability than a strong, free, and educated woman. So when someone has self-confidence, when you point out their weaknesses, they will not take it negatively. They will take it seriously. But when someone is suffering from low self-esteem, when you point out their weaknesses, it will be always, you are looking down upon me because you're the one feeding me every time. So if someone says like that, if this is the reaction of someone, this means they have low self-esteem. A person who trusts himself, who has a high self-esteem, when you point out his weaknesses, he will appreciate what you're saying. He will work on them. He will evaluate himself based on what you are pointing out. So it's very important. Then attractiveness. If love is there, then the husband and wife should put on the spectacles of beautification and whatever they see as good and beautiful to them. They may even consider each other's faults and weaknesses as beautiful. But if this life-giving element is lacking, then they will put on the spectacles of misconception and view everything as ugly. That may reach the extent of viewing each other's merits and demerits as the same. So that what it means here, no one is perfect. Men are not perfect. Women are not perfect. So what you have to do is to make sure in a good way you point out weaknesses of your spouse. And actually, Brother Naswar has a paper to read for us about this issue, about this topic. And then I will ask you about this. They say, if there is love, you may even consider each other's faults and weaknesses as beautiful when there is love. Now, when attractiveness is, you are a husband, you are a wife, make sure every day you look more attractive to your wife. A wife should look more attractive to her husband every day. So for example, if your wife tells you, I like this shirt when you wear it, make sure you wear that shirt. I like this trouser. Or if, for example, you are a lady and your husband says, I like the way you dress. You know, there is a man from Canada who married a Muslim woman. The main reason he married that Muslim woman is because she was wearing hijab. She was wearing nicely. She was covering herself. He was fed up of seeing women who do not cover well. So he was attracted to her mainly because of the Islamic dress code. Now, after he married her, she thought that because he's coming from the West, he will be happy or he will be happier if she removes hijab. When she removed hijab, the man was angry. He told me, the main aim for me to marry her is because of the hijab. Now she has removed the hijab, I am angry. So attractiveness. So look attractive. Try to pump yourself. Beautify yourself. Man or woman. Be clean. Take care of your hygiene. As I said, among the services that we provide is marriage counseling. So for example, one spouse, one lady told me that her husband is a mechanic. He comes back from the garage. He wants to be intimate with her before taking a shower, before brushing the teeth. She says, it's gross. I have lost appetite. So attractiveness is very important. Do a research on what your husband likes, what he doesn't like. Do a research on what your wife likes. If she tells you, I like this shoes, if possible, when you go shopping, go with your wife. Let her choose for you the shirt, the trouser, the shoes. Or you can also help her to choose. So this attractiveness may perpetuate the marriage between you and each other. And actually, you know, as I said before, sometimes people, when they see a lot of skills and attractiveness, they neglect beauty. You know, as I said before, I think it was the first session, that there was a man who wanted to marry. And they suggested to him a young lady who was not beautiful, not ugly. So he neglected her. But when he heard her recite the Quran, this skill of beautiful recitation of the Quran, he was attracted to her. And the more he stayed with her, the more he discovered a lot of skills, a lot of talents, and now he loves her more than anyone else. So it's not only about beauty, about skills, education, care, attractive. You may be not beautiful in someone's eyes, but the way you make yourself attractive, he may even view you as more beautiful than others. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each and everybody in a beautiful shape. And actually they say in Arabic, لِكُلِّ سَاقِطَةٍ لَاقِطٍ لِكُلِّ سَاقِطَةٍ لَاقِطٍ. So everything that drops down, there is a person who will pick it up, which means what is beautiful for you may not be beautiful for another person. So you may dump something, you don't like it, another person will treasure it. So everyone has different choices. So you cannot generalize that because to me she's not beautiful, no one should consider her. No, beauty is subjective. So Nasara is going to read to us something that will explain somehow about this issue. If you love someone, sometimes their weaknesses become beautiful.
One example, James and Natasha used to bring this concept to life, was to go over the various responses every person has when encountering stressful situations or conflict. Some people go into fight mode. They confront, they argue, they get after dialogue, no matter how tense. Other people go into flight mode. They hope fight mode and flight mode. Other people go into flight mode. They hope to keep the peace by changing the subject or even fleeing the scene. And other people go into freeze mode, becoming very quiet as they process the situation and decide what to do next. In my own marriage, Jordan tends to fight and I tend to freeze. In these moments, we can both find the other person to be pretty frustrating. But then James and Natasha pointed out that there are positives to each response. Fighters might be confrontational, but in other circumstances, they are often assertive and strong decision makers. Flighters might have a tendency to retreat, but in other circumstances, they tend to be very accommodating and flexible. And freezers might take a long time to process their thoughts, but they can be very strategic problem solvers.
Okay, basically, what it tells us, when you love one another, when there's a fault, when there's a problem, you find a way of solving the problem in a good way, in a positive way, not looking down upon each other. I will give you just two examples about this issue. And of course, there are more and more examples in life. Number one, one example is, there was a man who married a woman. She used to have a friend whom he didn't like. So he continuously told his wife, I don't like your friend. I don't want you to bring her to my house. So his wife didn't listen. She was stubborn. She continuously brought her friend to her husband's house, yet her husband doesn't like her friend. So the poor guy, went to his mother complaining that, what shall I do? I have threatened my wife continuously. I don't want her to bring her friend to my house. I don't like her friend. I don't trust her. So the mother told him, cool down. Next time your wife brings her friend to your house, make sure you eat together, you sit together on a dining table, and start praising her friend in front of her. Tell your wife, your friend is so beautiful. I like the way she talks. She's so eloquent. I like the way she dressed. So the man implemented this strategy. So he started praising his wife's friend. That was the end. He didn't see her friend again. So he was striking a sensitive chord. So he came up with a strategy. When he was threatening, it didn't work. So he resorted to what they call striking a sensitive chord. So you know your wife very well, you know your husband very well. So when he insists on doing something you don't like, you know where to touch him. Inshallah, it will change. Now, in a book entitled How to Make Friends and Win Hurt by Dale Carnegie, he talks about a group of women who used to have problems with their husbands. So they formed an association of women having problems with their husbands. And there was a priest in a church who was giving them lectures on how to handle problems in their houses. So that priest gave them one day an assignment. He said, I want each one of you to go to your husbands, tell your husband to write 6 things which he does not like about you, which he wants you to change. So the women went, each one of them asked her husband to write 6 things that he doesn't like about her. All of them wrote, only one man didn't write. So in the morning, his wife is telling him, honey, I'm going to the church. Did you write the 6 things which you don't like about me? So he didn't answer. He went to a flower shop. He bought her a bouquet of flowers. He wrote on a card, I love you the way you are. So the woman went to the church and she told the priest and her friends that this is what my husband did. He didn't write the 6 things that he doesn't like about me. He rather bought a bouquet of flowers and wrote on a card that he loves me the way I am. So they were curious. They wanted to know, why did this man do this? They invited the man. They asked him. He said, you know what? Had I written the 6 things which I don't like about her, she would have written 1,000,000 things which she doesn't like about me. So the man was clever. And actually the woman was impressed. And in a good way, they discussed a lot of things. Something changed. Of course, you cannot solve all the problems until we die. You cannot solve all the problems. Even our mother Aisha, she used to be jealous. One day, Safiya radiallahu anha brought some food to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. So Aisha got jealous. She kicked the dish. It fell down and broke. Did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam punish Aisha? Did he yell at her? No. He picked the food. He told his companions, Kulu gharat ummukum, eat. Your mother has been jealous. And what he did is he swapped. So that broken dish was given to Aisha, and he told Aisha to give a new dish to Safiya. Problem solved. So even our mothers had problems, so you cannot solve all the problems, but we try hard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward our efforts if we do that sincerely. So, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu says, Man abghadha shay'an abghadha an yanzura ilayhi wa an yudhkara inda. Translation, if a person dislikes a thing, he hates looking at it as well as hearing about it. So when you reach a point when you hate each other, husband hates wife, wife hates husband, even what they do as good, you don't like it, you will not consider it. So we have to be careful. We have to struggle to control our emotions, husband and wife. So the wife that you have is unique. You will never get like her. The husband that you have is unique. You will never get like him. So you have to struggle to water the tree, intending to do so first to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have this quote here that reads, when someone does something wrong, don't forget about all the things they did right. You know, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was on Eid al-Adha. So he told women that you should give charity a lot. The reason is you are the majority of the people of hell. They asked him why. He told them 2 reasons. One of those 2 reasons is you are so ungrateful. For example, your husband may be buying things for you, taking care of you, but once he annoys you, you will forget all that. And the woman will say, he didn't help me. He didn't give me anything. I'm struggling. You know, once there was a case in one of the countries where we visited. So a lady was complaining that she didn't see her husband for 3 months. He was not buying her food, he was not helping her, and she needed someone to help. So we went to a meeting, and her own father told her, you are claiming you didn't see your husband for 3 months, but yesterday I saw him going to your house and he was carrying foodstuffs. She didn't have anything to say. She kept quiet. And actually, I was angry. I just exited the meeting. So imagine the man, yesterday he went to her with foodstuffs. Now she's accusing him that she didn't see him for 3 months. So the Prophet ﷺ is warning women of being ungrateful to their husbands. Likewise men, as I usually say, a lot of men, for example, if your wife cooks for you a good meal, you enjoy it. When the meal is good, you don't compliment her, you don't thank her. But when there is a lot of salt, you will start complaining, there is a lot of salt. Now, why didn't you praise her when you enjoyed the food? Why do you complain when there's a lot of salt? So you have to, there should be a stick and a carrot, and we should use carrots more. So there is there is a book entitled 5 Love Languages. One of them is statements, to issue statements to confirm or to praise your spouse for the good things they do for you. Always praise them. So do so for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man la yashkuru nasa la yashkuru Allah. If you can't be grateful to people who help you, who serve you, you can't be grateful to Allah. And this applies to husband and wife. If your wife does you a service, thank her. Tell her Jazakillahu khairan. The same thing. If you are a wife, your husband buys you a gift, thank him. Say Jazakallahu khairan. So not only when there is a mistake you will complain, and when there is something good you keep quiet. So this is very important. Then someone who truly loves you sees what a mess you can be, how moody you can get, and how hard you can be to handle, but still he or she wants you. So if there is true love, sometimes they will ignore the mistakes, they will ignore the faults. And sometimes you don't need to embarrass someone. If there is something wrong, just wait until an opportune time to mention what went wrong. So we have to employ the most effective way of addressing problems among us so that we sustain this marriage bond, which is very important. When you marry, you are not only husband and wife here on earth, you will also be husband and wife in paradise. Number 9, compatibility in religion. What it means: if you are a Muslim man, you have to marry a Muslim woman, or a Jewish or a Christian woman. But a non-Muslim man is not allowed to marry a Muslim woman. A Muslim woman is not allowed to marry a non-Muslim man. So if someone wants to marry you, for example, he's a Christian or a Jew, tell him, I am a Muslim woman, I cannot marry a non-Muslim man. So he has to embrace Islam so that he can marry you. So it is considered the foundation of marriage, and it even constitutes a condition for its validity according to the general consensus of Muslim scholars. Therefore, it is not permissible for a woman to marry a non-Muslim man by consensus. Moreover, a guardian should not give in marriage a righteous woman to a corrupt Muslim man. Allah says, الخبيثات للخبيثين والخبيثون للخبيثات والطيبات للطيبين والطيبون للطيبات أولئك مبرؤون مما يقولون لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم. The translation is, evil women are for evil men, and evil men are for evil women. Conversely, good women are for good men, and good men are for good women. Those good people are declared innocent of what they, the slanders, say. For them is forgiveness and a noble provision. Does anyone know the circumstances behind which this verse was revealed? You know, some verses in the Quran were revealed to address an incident. Something happened. In order to solve the problem, the verses were revealed. So does anyone know why this verse was revealed? Yes, sister?
Yes, because those people who slander Aisha radiallahu anha.
Yes, yes.
And the word khabithun and khabithat, it means this ugly words comes from ugly mouths, and this good words come from good sounds and good
Yes, yes. So the context of this verse is that, you know, some hypocrites collaborated to falsely slander Aisha, accusing her of having an extramarital affair with one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the most human being. He cannot marry a worst woman. She cannot do this. So Aisha was declared innocent by verses from the Quran. So this is why scholars say that even if someone is rich, if he doesn't pray, if he drinks alcohol, if he commits premarital or extramarital affairs, don't give your daughter to him, even if he's rich. But if he repents, then you can give her to him. Now we come back here. There is something I'd like to say about this issue. It is considered So as a Muslim, to marry a Christian or a Jewish woman, it's allowed, but the opposite is not allowed. Right? Now, does anyone know why a Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim man? Yes, sister? Yes.
Because one Muslim woman has tons of, even Christian and Jewish women who's married to a Muslim man, they have tons of rights Christian and Jewish men cannot handle.
Yes. Yes.
Christian and Jewish men won't understand a lot of rituals that Muslim women have to do, like fasting in Ramadan.
Yes.
They won't understand this.
Yes. Yes.
Other things.
Yes. Yes. Actually, what the sister says, in Islam, we have instructions that if you marry a Christian or Jewish woman, how to treat her. But the Christians and Jews, they don't have such instructions. We as Muslims believe in Jesus and Moses as prophets and messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As such, a Muslim will never ever blaspheme Jesus or Moses. So, for example, when some non-Muslim blaspheme Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muslims will never ever retaliate by doing the same about Jesus or Moses. So, when a Muslim man marries a Christian or a Jewish woman, she will be safe. She will not hear anything bad about her religion. And actually, even though Muslim men are allowed to marry Christian or Jewish women, there is a time when Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he was leader of the believers, for some time he forbade Muslim men to marry Christian or Jewish women. Temporarily it was forbidden. Does anyone know why? Generally, you are allowed, if you are a Muslim man, to marry a Christian or Jewish woman. But there is a time when Umar said it's forbidden. Does anyone know why? Why Umar forbade it for some time? Yes, Sister Karima?
I'm not sure, but I think for the women who are Arab and Muslims, they were neglected and then prefer to have like foreigners from the openings and wars of Muslim men of Sahaba. And Muslim woman should have a Muslim husband, but Christian she can't have.
Yes. So what the sister means, at that time, many Muslim men opted to marry Christian or Jewish women. They neglected the Muslim women. So the Muslim women didn't have any other option. So a Christian woman has two options, Christian or Jew, or Christian or Muslim. But a Muslim woman has only one option. So there were a lot of spinsters, Muslim and married women. So to solve this problem, Omar said, no, now I forbid it for this time. We are not happy to have a lot of Muslim sisters who don't have husbands. So he forbade it, and he was right in doing so. So even today or tomorrow, if you are a leader in your community and you discover that Muslim men are not marrying Muslim women and Muslim women are kept as spinsters, so you can interfere by preventing it for some time. Or if you are wealthy, the community is wealthy, you can give incentives that if you marry a Muslim woman, I will pay for your marital ceremony, you will get this and that, to encourage the Muslims to marry their fellow Muslim women. But it depends on where you are and how you are. And sometimes, even if a woman is a Christian, she may become a Muslim and become better practicing than a born Muslim. It depends. So, as we usually say, like everything else, before you marry, you have to pray Salat al-Istikhara. Salat al-Istikhara, you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the best. Not only that, you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you after giving you the best. So you have two choices, a Muslim and a Christian. Both of them are equally important to you. You're interested in them. So pray Salat al-Istikhara. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to choose for you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything about everyone. Even if you do a background check, sometimes human beings are chameleons. So before you marry her, she may pretend to be religious. After you marry her, you will see the true colors. So you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you in this issue, which is very important. Commenting on the above verse, Abdullah Yusuf Ali, who was among the first people to translate the Quran into English, wrote, "Good women are sometimes indiscreet because they think of no evil at all. But even such an indiscretion lands them and those who hold them dear into difficulties." So what he means, that if a woman is good and religious, she doesn't think bad about others. So she may be open, trying to help, talking to people, but this may cause her problems. For example, I know of a lady, I won't mention countries, She's very innocent, very helpful. So she used to sit with cleaners, male cleaners, sit with them, talk to them, provide food to them. So some people were accusing her falsely. But again, we say a Muslim, you have to be careful. You know, when we were talking about al-wara, does anyone know the definition of al-wara? Al-wara means you avoid doing something suspicious. You avoid going to a suspicious place because people may think of you as a non-committed Muslim. And I gave an example that, for example, Nasar is in Canada, I'm also in Canada. Nasar calls me, he says, Brother Hassan, I would like you to meet with me. So I am new to Canada. I don't know any place. I don't know any landmark in Canada. So the only thing that I can know is a nightclub. So Nasar says, Mr. Hassan, let's meet at a nightclub, in front of a nightclub. Now, is it bad if we just meet in front of a nightclub? We are not going to enter. We are not going to dance. We're just meeting. To make it easy for me to know where to meet. Is it bad if me and Nasar will meet in front of a nightclub? Not because we want to dance, not because we want to enjoy, just for him to make it easy for me, the place that I can easily locate. Is it haram? It's not haram, right? But because of wara, I am afraid. What if one of my enemies sees me in front of a nightclub? He takes a picture, behind me there is nightclub. He says, you see, Mr. Hassan claims to be a sheikh, claims to be giving khutbahs. In Canada, he stands in front of a nightclub. So people who don't know me, they will believe. So to avoid all that, I say, Nasar, let's look for somewhere else. So this is al-wara. So a lady, even if you are innocent, you like to help, if you feel that you are in a situation whereby people will doubt you, avoid it. Anyway, according to this website, this verse clearly expresses a fundamental principle that impure men are a fit match for impure women and pious men are a fit match for pious women. Sometimes a woman's guardian marries her off to a wicked man and prefers him to a religious one because of his wealth or high position. The wicked man may be doing unlawful jobs, turning away from obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and neglecting his orders. Such guardians will be held accountable before Almighty Allah for destroying their daughters' lives. So don't choose someone because of money. And who told you that someone will die a poor man? Only Allah knows. Someone may be rich today, tomorrow is poor. Someone is poor today, tomorrow is rich. Many people are becoming rich, they tell you, we didn't expect it. So when you choose someone for your daughter, choose because of two things. Does anyone remember them? A hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Anyone who comes to you who is religious, you are happy with his religious commitment and his good manners, marry off your daughter to him. Good things. His religious good manners. The Prophet didn't say wealth. Wealth can come and go. And anyone can become rich. In one of the countries, without mentioning names, a person who was a prime minister, he used to have a peon, someone, an office messenger working for him. So that prime minister, something happened, he became a poor man, and now he's working for that office messenger. So anything can happen. So don't be deceived by wealth, by property. It can come and go. Now there are hurricanes, there are earthquakes in many places. People are losing all their property in a minute. So if you choose something according to the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you choose someone based on instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will bless you. So don't build your marriage on your feelings that constantly change. Build your marriage on your faith in Allah. Feelings. Yeah, so today you met him, your fiancé, he was wearing good clothes, he made you happy. Tomorrow he didn't tell you good things, so you become moody. So what you have to do is to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to choose for you the best, and continuously pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, this is another topic. I don't know what time is it. Yeah, inshallah, we'll discuss this next time. But quickly, I'll just touch upon these two things. These are the prerequisites of marriage. Before you marry, make sure you implement these 5 things. You put them into consideration. Number 1, when you marry, you understand that you are obliging to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to marry, wants you to procreate. He brought us here on earth for the purpose of procreation. And the Prophet ﷺ says he will be proud on the day of judgment to have many followers. So you marry, you procreate, you have children who will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you die, will continue the legacy of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are some things that if they continue doing, you get rewards in your grave. So when you marry, understand that you are doing it first for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the command of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number two, you have to be sincere. Now, what I mean by sincere, of course, you have to be sincere to your husband, you have to be sincere to your wife in different ways. But specifically here, I will give you an example. There are some people from the third world, a man, for example, from Brazil or from Africa, he marries a lady from the UK or from America. He is not interested in her. He is interested in the nationality. Once he gets the American passport, he divorces her, he goes to his country to marry the wife of his choice. So when you marry someone, marry with the intention of perpetuating the marriage. Don't marry because of benefits, because of nationality, because of wealth. No, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not bless you if your intentions are wrong. It's like a house, if the foundation is weak, the house will not stand. So the foundation of marriage is to be sincere. You are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are interested in her. You are committed to her. No matter where she comes from, you will settle down with her. And integrity means, does anyone know the difference between sincerity and integrity? There are a lot of differences between sincerity and integrity. Some people pronounce it as sincerity, but the pronunciation is sincerity. So what is the difference between sincerity and integrity? Does anyone know? Sincerity, we have the word sincerity and integrity. Does anyone know? Integrity. The difference between sincerity and integrity? Can anyone tell us? Sincerity is to be honest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do things for the sake of Allah without ulterior motives. Sincerity is to be honest with the person that you deal with. When you help them, when you advise them, it has to come from the heart. You know, sometimes friends who claim to be friends, they advise you something which is wrong because they don't want you to succeed. Or if you tell them you're planning to do something, a project which is good for you, and they know it will benefit you, because of jealousy, they give you flimsy reasons not to do it. They are not sincere. Integrity means to be honest with yourself. So before you marry her or you marry him, ask yourself, am I really interested in her? Am I really interested in him? Do I really like her? Can I really put up with her weaknesses? So here you are a person of integrity. You have to be sincere with yourself, because people don't know what's in your heart. Only Allah can tell what you hide in your heart. So what you tell her should come from the heart. Don't tell her something and believe in something else. And sincerity, integrity, as he says here, is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Integrity is to do the right thing even when no one is watching over you. So when, for example, you're planning to marry someone, you're intending to marry someone, so even if people discourage you, but you know that this person is good for you, go ahead, because a lot of people will discourage you. And not all those who discourage you are sincere. Some of them are interested in him. There are many stories whereby you are a lady, you tell your friend, you introduce your fiancé to her, and then your friend discourages you. I saw him, he did this and that. You lose hope in him, you lose interest, and your friend marries him. So not everyone who advises you is sincere. You have to be careful. The only thing you have to do is to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, salat al-istikhara, who will guide you. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides you, there is no one to misguide you. So inshallah, next week we'll be talking about personal hygiene, knowledge and character, and we'll be talking about other important things, and I will be showing you a video. So we have Brother Yusuf. Brother Yusuf has been attending our classes, and I think he's going to travel to join university. So he told me that he has something to say before we finish the class. So Brother Yusuf, and mashallah, he looks handsome, he looks smart. Inshallah, in the future, you'll be a minister or ambassador.